welcome to the Empowered Self podcast. I'm your host, Krista Long, and today's episode is one that I invite you to receive with an open heart and gentle presence. My guest today is the radiant and courageous Oonagh O'Keeffe, also known as the Healing Messenger. Oonagh is bringing healing and connection to people through the healing messages she receives and through her spiritual workout mentorship courses that she offers. It aims to help people reconnect with the spiritual part of themselves, which can be forgotten due to life stresses and everyday pressures, as well as past life experiences. She is, in my book, a truth teller and a brave-hearted soul who has walked the long road from trauma to transformation. This conversation touches on childhood trauma, healing from sexual abuse, spiritual awakening, and the fierce love of a mother who chose to break a generational cycle of pain. Let's begin by arriving fully into this space. So, Oonagh, welcome to the Empowered Self podcast. Let's start where you are today.
Thanks.
Who is Oonagh now and what lights you up?
That was a beautiful introduction, first of all. Anyway, I kind of got a little bit emotional listening back. There's something about writing it down, but when you hear it back, it's beautiful. So thanks, Crystal, for that opening. Who is Oonagh now? I suppose, what would I say? A very happy, very peaceful woman. You know, I wake up every morning and I really do put my hand on my heart and I give thanks every single day, Crystal. I really do, even for the people that drive me flipping nuts. I say thank you to them as well because, you know, every day is a school day. I know it's an old cliche that we use, isn't it? Every day is a school day, but it really truly is. But it's to see it in a completely different eyes, you know, and that's what my journey has been about. It's to see it in very, very different eyes, different energy. And it's just, I'm very blessed that I wake up every day feeling so healthy and together and grounded. You know, I just feel very, 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 very blessed because I could have went the other way. But thank God I'm on this side of the journey. I see my children, they're doing their thing. You know, they have their challenges and I see their challenges as growth. I don't try to fix them. You know, I just live. I suppose sometimes people say to me, you don't live in the real world. But I most certainly do live in the real world. I can tell you the real world is out there. But I suppose it's, what kind of a real world is it, you know, for you? It's whatever eyes that you open up in the morning to, that can be your real world. And I just see it as being very grateful. It's a mucky grey day out there and everyone is giving out about the weather. I'm just back from holidays. But do you know what? I see Ireland as luscious and green and such colour. And the flowers are blooming because we get so much weather and so much wet weather. And when we go on holidays, we're giving out about it's too hot. All the people that I was sitting beside on the beach, it's too hot, it's too this, it's too that. So I don't know if we ever are happy as human beings, but it's to see it in eyes of absolute. We're very blessed. It's only when you look around at other people and what they don't have, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So you describe yourself as the healing messenger. Tell us about your spiritual connection growing up.
Oh God. I suppose, you know, I only just thought it was pure natural to have these little entities around me and talking to them all the time. I thought it was very, very natural. I didn't see anything that was wrong with me, to be honest. I loved my own company because I never felt I was on my own, if that makes sense to you. I woke up every morning and I was always talking to energy that was around me and I could hear them talking back. So I never felt alone. So I've always had them. So I don't know what it's like not to have these energies of these entities and these beautiful energy around me. So I've always been connected very spiritually. Like I love nothing more as a little girl, just walking around the roads. I love very connected with the animals, very connected with nature. I would get lost in nature a lot as a child. It was my coping mechanism. Was just to get out of the house and be in the crags, as I used to call them. Crags, to anyone that doesn't know them, is a term that we used to use growing up for, you know, there was a kind of overgrown trees at the back of one of our houses where we lived. And I used to be in there listening to the birds, listening and talking away to my guides, I suppose. So I've always been spiritual, Crystal, you know, always. But I suppose more and more people, thank God, are starting to talk about it now. Well, at least I found a lot of my own tribe now, I suppose, that talk the same language as I do, and it's lovely. So I've always had it. I don't know what it's like not to have it. So I know I lost it on my way when I became a teenager, right? I lost that because I found addiction instead of my guides. But so I know what it was like to lose my way and not listen to them anymore and block them out. But they've always been there. Yeah. It's just my way of life. I talk to them all day long. So yeah.
And Oonagh, I know you shared with me before that you've been through a profound journey yourself. And if you could tell us a little bit of what that was like for you, and I suppose what was the moment that sparked your healing path as well?
God, there's been so many moments. I don't know, where would you begin? Do you want my childhood, the middle? Do you want my marriage part? Because there's been so many parts, I suppose.
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Sharing that.
I'll try and make it a short. I'm 54 coming in October, so I'll make it a short. Oh God, yeah. I feel younger than I ever did, even in my 30s, I'll be honest. But I'll try and make it as short as I can, Crystal, because I only speak about my story. I come on social media, as I say, is to always help people. And it's not to say poor me or pity or any of that stuff. I don't do that stuff. I've done all my healing, and it's really to help other people, empower them. To say that I have been a face of sexual abuse by my father from a very young age. From the age I can remember, I went back as far as 8 in my healing journey. And I stopped at 8 because that's as far as I wanted to go back, to remember. So for me, I had to go back to remember because I had a lot of it blocked out. And that was my coping mechanism. And I presume, a lot of people choose that path, block it out and try and get on. But the sexual abuse was quite severe. And I won't go into it, but it was between a father and a daughter that, looked up to her father, but was very frightened of her father. He was a very, very, what would I say, troubled man. He had a lot of demons inside in him, and he took it out mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually. All those emotions was his coping mechanisms of dealing with his demons, and he took it out on the most precious cargo. And I only speak about my own story, so I speak about my own story in my childhood. So he took it out on that form of abuse with me for many, many years, And, when you're a very vulnerable child, so you're very vulnerable and you're very scared, and there's no one you can talk to, and you're brainwashed. You are totally brainwashed by this person, and you're very frightened. And, the things that he said to me, if you tell our little secret, all these kind of secrets and things that you keep would upset your mother or would kill your mother. He used at one stage. So I went, oh my God, I can't kill my mother, So there was a lot of brainwashing, a lot of stuff going on. So as you can imagine, this was a huge detrimental effect on my whole childhood. I never know who I was or what I was. It was huge. I lived in a complete bubble of fear, anxiety, afraid to go to sleep, afraid to wake up. I had a lot of illnesses in my body as a little girl growing up, a lot of chest problems, a lot of eczema, asthma, loads of different things. So school for me was a very, very safe place to go to, and I'd never miss a day as much as I could to go to school. It wasn't to learn because I was away with the fairies, as I was told. I'd be always staring out the window, always talking to my angels and my guides about, I suppose, that was my release. I talked to them all day long. They were like my little counselors. But I always felt safe. I don't know what it was. I always felt safe. So yeah, it affected me in so many ways, I suppose, Crystal. It affected me growing up as a teenager. It affected me going into my 20s. It affected me when I had a relationship with my now husband. We're together 35 years. I met him when I was 19, just turned 19. My father had just gone to prison to serve a 7-year sentence. So I went through all that trauma of a court case back in the late 80s, the 90s, when there wasn't much support around for my time and my era that I was going through this. I hope there is more support out there now. Because even the Vanguard that was taking my case at the time, a lovely, lovely woman, I actually tracked her down a few years ago just to meet up with her. She said that she had to go to the Rape Crisis Centre herself to try and learn about this that was being presenting to her on an ongoing And then in the Garda station, people coming in saying that they've been sexually abused. There was no coping mechanisms for the guards back then. So she had to go and do courses on this and try and counsel herself on this so she could, be the best version of herself as a vanguard there was at the time, the late 80s, 90s. So I remember going to the court case, the high court case, as a young teenager on my own in the back of a car, an unmarked car, and having to be presented in my father in a court case. So all that trauma was huge at the time, absolutely huge. And then it got buried for over 30 years. I went on a journey with my now, who is my husband. I forgot about my angels and my guides. And when my father went to prison, I just felt there was a sense of relief, but also a sense of huge grief and huge guilt, absolute huge guilt, that I was trying to say, maybe, this happens everywhere. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. All them emotions come up. I was a huge people pleaser. So I had all those emotions going on inside me. So as you can imagine, bringing that to any relationship, that you're not healed yourself, or you have done no healing work on yourself, and you're going into a relationship with anybody, and then you have children, on top of that, and you've blocked all these layers and layers of emotions. And for me, I found addiction. So I went into alcoholism, really. I drank my feelings. I got a taste of alcohol when I was 18.
Yeah.
I started off with a dash of Guinness on top of a Coke and a dash of Guinness. And I went, oh, this tastes nice. And then I kind of progressed to lagers, and then I've progressed, and I drank way too much, but it just helped me live as best I could with all these emotions that I had in my body, of guilt, shame, embarrassment, trying to have a sexual relationship, after coming from a sexual abuse story, is a huge journey on its own, for God's sake. So alcohol became my best friend. And I blocked out my guides, and I kind of put the two fingers up to them and went, fuck off, I'm going on my own. I'm going to try this as my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And but even though my guides and my angels were always around me, but I could hear them trying to knock on the door to help me, but I didn't want it. So I went around like that for a very, very, very long time. And I suppose what was the changing point for me was becoming a mother, definitely. Definitely becoming a mother. I have two beautiful daughters. Shauna's 20 and Leah's 18. And they are my reason why. And I know people say, you should never do it for your children. You have to do it for yourself. But I definitely believe I was doing it definitely for my children and for my relationship, because it was nil and void. I had lost so many things in my life, and they were just on a tiny, tiny string. They were only holding on in there. So my children have been my best teachers, and my eldest daughter in particular, Shauna, love my two kids with all my heart. I'm so proud of the way they can, speak to me without being fearful and telling me exactly how they feel about me being as a mother, because I needed that as a shake-up. So I went on a huge healing journey, absolutely huge, let go of lots of people in my life. Family members had to leave my life as well, at a part of my life and my journey, just so I could heal and have that space of really, really getting to know who the flipping hell is Oonagh, So yeah, it's been a huge journey, but a very, very good one too.
And even with all of that, that long journey that you have taken to become where you are today, and so from previous conversations with you, you've found a way not only to, I suppose, process the trauma and all the healing work that you have to do, but you're also supporting others as well in their journeys. And one of the things that we've touched upon as well is how you set up a support group for others who were survivors of sexual abuse. Can you tell us a bit about, how you got to that place of setting up a support group and some of the sacrifices you had to make personally to give others that support as well?
Yeah. So, Crystal, when I was going through my healing journey, I was on a wait list for over a year with the Rape Crisis Centre. When I eventually decided that I needed actually help, it was my husband kept saying, reach out. And, he kept saying, you need help, you need support. So I made an initial call with the Rape Crisis Centre. They gave me an interview. I went for the interview down in Limerick. And this was huge after 30 years of burying stuff inside you. I sat there and I cried at the interview because I went, oh my God almighty, this has been buried so long. And then I was saying, oh, when's my next appointment? And they say, oh, look, you're going to be put on a wait list, etc., etc. So I was put on a wait list. I was devastated to hear that because I was now ready to step into that world of getting help. It took me a long, long, long time to get to that place. And now they were saying I'm going to be put on a wait list. And I said, oh God, how long is that wait list going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And they said they couldn't really say, but there is a good few in front of you. And I wanted my appointments to be in Innis, in my local town, instead of having to go to Limerick, because Limerick would have been too far for me to travel after work. So the wait list there was even longer because they only had a counsellor there, I think. I could be marked wrong, but I think 1 day or 2 days a week. So that's, that was a long list. So I was on that list for over a year. And again, I gave up hope, but I went back, I got my appointments after the year, but I was in a right mess. I was even more in a complete mess. I was drinking way too much at this stage. I was trying to hold down my job. I was trying to be a mother the best I could, but all these emotions were coming up. I felt very suicidal, I'll be honest, Crystal. I felt that I wanted to just end it all. And it was just detrimental for my children, my husband, to see me drinking so much and trying to cope in life and put on all these masks while I was waiting. Every day I was waiting for that call that I might be seen. Now I did go in between getting counselling myself, pay for it. And I went for a lot of healing, like acupuncture and stuff like that, because I didn't really want to go down the road of medicating myself, because the doctors wanted to put me on lots of medication because I had lots of illnesses in my body. I had fibromyalgia, which is a really chronic pain every day to live with. So, trying to make a long story short, I went for counselling 1 hour a week is what I was given. And that 1 hour flew, as you can imagine. I had so much to say and so much to heal. And I used to always say to my counsellor, is there any support group I could go to? I need support in between my sessions. I need to meet one other person that has been through this, and I need to talk to people about this. I says, I feel I'm my voice is not being heard. I need to speak to other people. And she says, no, Oonagh, there's nothing. She says, I can offer you. So there was an online private Facebook closed group, but I went on it and it wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. The interaction, wasn't my vibe, as they say. So I was getting very frustrated, Crystal, I'll be honest, that I saw there were support groups for everything out there. If you were going through cancer, there was cancer support groups, there was alcohol, drug addiction, there was everything. And I went, what about us that have been sexually abused? Where's our support group? So I got quite cross, and I was feeling that anger that why have we to be silenced? And then after a very long journey, and it's a real long story, my story actually came out on Facebook by a mistake. And it was a post that I wrote because I was searching and screaming for help. And I was typing into this closed face group, community group that was over in America. And I was typing up quite angry stuff on it. And I said, I just need support around this. And I was asking lots of questions and et cetera, et cetera. And it went viral. And then my story broke that, my sexual abuse story broke. It came out on Facebook. And it's a long story, really, but because my children didn't even know I was going for counselling at this stage. My husband did, and he was the only one that knew, because I kept it a secret. Yeah. I didn't want to tell people I was going to the Rape Crisis Centre. I was embarrassed because, it's seen to be such a shameful thing, whereas now I see it's not. So it came out, it was viral. So everyone at the school wall knew Oonagh now was going, for this treatment, and she's been sexually abused. But I was typing on this platform looking for more answers and help. And I couldn't take it down because I didn't know my password. And it lay up there in the clouds for many months, because that's what happens when you put something up and you don't know your password to take it down. Yeah. I lost about 3 stone weight with the stress of it. So I had to now tell my children, my own immediate family around me, like my own siblings and that, they got very cross. And they asked me to take it down, and I couldn't because of that reason. I didn't have access to but I see it now as it was supposed to go out, because out of it, I broke my silence. Out of it, I set up a support group at the back of all that. Yes, lots of people got mad and cross at me. I did have to lose my own mother for a while, and my sisters. My brother supported me hugely. My husband was a rock. My own children were amazing because they were so young. They were young, but they understood as best they could, and with the bit of knowledge that I was feeding them over the years. And I just said that I want to turn this pain into helping people. So I wrote a piece in my local paper And I set up a support group called Stop the Secrets, because I just felt I'm sick of these secrets. I need to stop them. And I ran it for a long period of time. Myself and my husband self-funded it. A lot of money went into it. I set up for hours and hours and hours every night with actually my husband's cousin, who also had set up support groups in her own past, who was now passed on only a year ago, and she was only in her 50s. Mary Fitzgerald, who set up Clare Haven and Haven Horizons. She was my backbone. She met with me maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and to help me set it up as a non-profit organisation. So it went as far as being a non-profitable organisation. But it was eaten into every waking minute of my own healing journey, if you know what I mean. So I was turning my healing again into helping other people, wanting to set up this. And I nearly put myself on the back burner again. And I was forgetting about my children and my husband. I was still going to the Rape Crisis Centre myself for help. But here I was starting to reach out to help other people when I needed to actually do it for myself. But I ran it for 2.5 years, and I'm very proud that I did. I set it up in Shannon and Innis, and I would load up my car and head off 2 evenings a week and sit there and look for premises where I could rent. I went on in Facebook at the time, looking and searching for premises. And then people then said to me, "Oh, Oonagh, you can't run a support group like that." So I met a lot of people that were negative towards it, because they said, "You're not qualified, to be dealing with people that are so vulnerable. That you need to be a counsellor, you need to have a counsellor on board." So I went and I actually found a counsellor, paid the counsellor her fee. She did it at a reduced cost, but you needed to pay, I had to pay for the rent of a room, and I had to pay for flyers and all the things. So it was really becoming a business, and it took up my life, but there was no money coming out of it for me, but everything going into it. And I was still on my own healing journey. But I'm very proud. So I had to make a decision again. What am I going to do here? Because I actually had gave up my own employment as well. I ceased work. I just handed in my notice. I was a dental nurse for 21 years. And I handed in my notice because that part of my life wasn't fulfilling me anymore either. So there was a lot of stuff going on. So after 2.5 years, I ceased it. I just put up a post on Facebook to say that, it had served me, whatever. I met a lot of lovely people along the way. And I'm so glad that I did that for the length that I did. But then I went back on my own healing journey again and put more time into myself after that.
And, just thinking about that, I suppose healing isn't linear for many of us. It isn't a straight road ahead, and we all have various ways that we pull our strength from when we're going on our journey. And I'm just wondering, your journey has been up and down a lot, and you've had addiction, and you've been in dark moments in your life, and here you are empowering others by supporting them with this support group. But you spoke a lot about your daughters and your husband, and you have said that you've told your daughters your story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, what was that like for you to tell that story to your daughters, and what was it like for them to hear it?
So I suppose, Crystal, between myself and my husband, we spoke in depth, that we would only tell them, little increments, little bits and little pieces. So in the past, I would have told them lies, if they ever kind of spoke about, "Oh, where's Granda Devaney?" I never spoke about him. What's he about? I would go say, "Oh, whatever, I don't know anything about him." I don't know, even at one stage I say he was dead, so I was telling them a lot of lies, I suppose, growing up, and that didn't sit well with me. I didn't want to start telling my children lies, because I wanted to break a cycle of lies. So when I went on my healing journey, I wanted, and I said it to my husband, that I want my girls to know where I came from, what happened to me, why I was like this, and why I was the mammy I was at that time. It was age appropriate. I gave them little increments, little snapshots. If they asked me something, I would say it to them, because my husband, very mindful. They were young as well at the time. They were young enough. And they were vulnerable enough as well. It was not easy for children to hear that their mammy is this one and now she's this person, change into a completely different human being. So they had to get used to this new mammy as well. So as they got older, and I even blocked them from Instagram and Facebook, because I didn't want them following me and listening to me as well. I wanted just to have as normal enough life as I could, because outside my life was so chaotic and so up in a heap, and it was very unpredictable, and there was a lot of stuff going on and a lot of pain going on and a lot of upset going on. So I wanted to try and keep our home life as normal as I could while I was going on my journey. But now they're 20 and 18, and the last, I suppose, even 2 years, I suppose, they've, I've been telling them lots more. So they know practically everything, really. I don't know how they feel, really. They listen. They don't say much. They are teenagers. They're young. I always tell them the truth as best I can. Um, and it's to help them. And I want them to see me as a mother that has turned her pain into helping other people, that keeping secrets is not the way forward. We have to speak our truth, and it's not to be embarrassed about our past. It's to embrace it. And that's what I want to empower my children with. I mightn't leave them with much, but I want to leave them with to be strong individual women, really strong individual women, and not let society tell them how to do things. Have their own mind, have their own heart about what their journey is in life, and never be embarrassed about their story, and never be listening to other people and what they say about you, because you know what, that's just their pain. So I hope that I empower them going forward, with all the different things that I'm going to do in my life, that I am doing, that I have done. I just hope to leave a legacy of really, really that they'll be proud of their mammy, and that I didn't turn to addiction, because so many people do turn to addiction, have lost their life through suicide, and have brought their stories with them to the next world because they were so embarrassed about their past and about their story. So I'm hoping to be a face for people. And when I come on social media, I don't talk much about my sexual abuse story. I know that is possibly who I am, and it's not who I am now. It was what I was. But if anyone asks me about my past, I have no bother speaking about it. But now it's all about healing from your past, owning your story, empowering yourself, not to be embarrassed. Let go of people that are dragging you down if they don't want you to speak your truth. I had to do that, and I had to do that with my own family at times. And I know there's a book in me, and that is going to go out to the world to help people. It's not to hurt people, but it's to help and empower. So I hope my children, I know they do. I know that they see it as that way. I know they do,
Just listening and watching you talk about your story, it's so inspiring, Oonagh, to see where you're at today in your life, considering how far you've travelled in your journey from the sexual abuse. And there's not many people, as you say, that will get to this part of healing in their life where they're in a better place. And, it's very hard for a lot of people to go from surviving to thriving in their lives. And I'm just wondering, those people that are still hanging on, that are surviving, what would you say to them to help them to move into more place where they can start to thrive in life? Or what helped you?
Yeah, what helped me? Well, what I could say to people, because, I always go back to what I was like, and when you're carrying around lots of masks and you're hiding behind alcohol and addiction, and, you're putting on all these masks all the time, it's to let go of the mask and really show the real authentic self, the real true you. Own your story. Don't feel that your story is, what would I say? Don't feel that your story is disempowering, because it's very powering. We all have a story. We all have a book in us. Every one of us have. And it's not to take that story with you to the grave, or to let it absolutely kill you as well. So take off the masks, reach out and definitely ask for help. Really, you can't do this journey on your own. You might think you can, but it's wonderful when you can ask for help, whatever that is. Whatever form of help is going to help you. It could be in the holistic treatments. It could be whatever it is. It doesn't have to be going for counseling or intense therapy, but start owning your story. When I started to own my story after it came out on Facebook, and after I lost 3 stone weight, I went down to nothing. I just said, you know what? I'm going to own this. Kind of fuck it attitude. I had to. And I said, what am I embarrassed about? I've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. If you came through a sexual abuse story, which I talk about, or if you're in addiction, you're doing nothing wrong. It's what you've came through. It's how you've been coping. And it's the other person, it's the people that are trying to keep you small, It's the person that is abusing you. You know, that's their story, and they need to look at themselves. But you be very, very, very proud of yourself. Very proud of yourself and your story. Do not hide away behind a bottle of wine or addiction or drugs. Show your face and own who you are, and really seek out and, you know, meet other people and ask for help and start healing from this, because, you know, you deserve it, absolutely deserve it as a human being.
And finally, Oonagh, you said your story is about owning your truth and your story and living authentically. What does being your authentic self look like for you today?
Well, I like to hope that I show up every day as being who you would meet. You know, just if you meet me every day, I want to be the same. So some days I show up and I don't have the makeup on and the hair done and it's thrown back in a ball. You know, I show up in a bikini, a swimming suit. You know, I love myself every day, that I just show up as I am. I sit down and I talk to people in my work environment, because I'm an SNA part, you know, I do job sharing now. So I work in a big secondary school and I just own who I am. So if somebody asks me, who am I, or what's your story, or where you came from, or, you know, if they ask me about my father or my mother, I just tell them as it is. I don't hide behind any masks. And I catch myself and I say, oh, Oonagh, you know, you have to own your story there now, or you have to, you know, some days I have to catch myself and say, be your authentic self, you know? So I always work on myself to make sure that I am authentic, that who you meet on the street is who you're meeting here on this podcast, you know? That there is no hidden Oonagh. Everything is said as it is. I don't have any secrets. I have none. That I don't speak about my family. That's their story. I don't speak about my children's journey or my husband's journey. That's their stories and how they deal with everything in their life and how they dealt with me. And I will never divulge any of that. I'm very proud of my children and my husband. They have been my rock, absolute rock. And I try to show up every day being who I am. And some days I don't come on social media if I just feel like shit, I'll be honest. I just don't come on it, because I says, what am I going to give there? Nothing negative. So I have negative days and down days and wreck days and tired days and days that test me as well. And I just try and connect more to myself and say, what's going on here? And I do a lot of meditating on those days, and I do a lot of walking in the woods those days. And I just try and stay away from people on those days. But what you see, I would hope, is what you would get. But I do believe that is who I am, and I just show up as best I can that way.
Oonagh, thank you so much for your honesty, your presence and your strength. You've given us all so much today.
Thank you.
If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe, leave a kind review, or share it with someone who might need it today. And if you want to connect with Oonagh herself, you can find her on Instagram. Oonagh, what's your handle on Instagram?
Yeah, so it's Oonagh the Healing Messenger. Oonagh the Healing Messenger. I always call myself Oonagh because that's the easiest way, but it's Oonagh, Oonagh. But people always question my name, but Oonagh the Healing Messenger. You'll find me on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks.
There you have it. You can find Oonagh on Instagram at The Healing Messenger, and you can also stay connected with us here by following me on Instagram at Crystal Empowered Self and Facebook at the Empowered Self Podcast, or use the links in the show notes. I'll be back next Wednesday with another soulful episode. Until then, take gentle care, and remember, as Oonagh says, your story matters. Until then, take care.